Welcome to the Wandering Tangent podcast. I'm BJ. With me is Jeff and Gary. And today we're talking about the 2001 Japanese monster flick, Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. That's a very long title.
One take, BJ. One take.
One take.
Good job.
Yay me. I can read and talk.
You can read a very long title.
I'm a functional member of society.
No, BJ, admittedly, that is a double mouthful of a title right there.
Yeah, I believe from now on, if we refer to movie title, we'll probably just call it Giant Monsters All Out Attack or just All Out Attack. One of the two is just easier to say than the whole thing.
That would be preferable.
It lists every monster, right? Or at least most of them.
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It just excludes poor Baragon because Baragon wasn't a big enough name, I guess.
Yeah, he didn't make it into the title, but he's in the movie.
Oh, to be fair, I don't think Baragon made it into very many movies. In fact, I think the only movies I think he was in was Destroy All Monsters back in 86, and that's because they had every monster in that one. And then he was in, is it Frankenstein Conquers the Earth, or was there a different Frankenstein movie?
There's a Godzilla monster from this storyline in Frankenstein Conquers the Earth.
Well, yeah, I think I told you about this many moons ago that there was.
Yeah, my brain did not record it, if that's so.
Yeah, there was a Toho created giant monster movie with Frankenstein's monster, if you want to be super technical, but they just called him Frankenstein. But yes, Frankenstein Conquers the World also had Baragon. I guess that was the American release title, and in Japan it was Frankenstein versus Baragon. So yeah, they didn't think Baragon was a big enough name to get it on the thing, which is kind of fair, I guess.
Well,
since he only showed up in two other movies.
3 creatures in the title.
I will say that of all the giant monsters in this movie, Baragon was actually my son's favorite. So if that has anything going for it.
Well, he's the guy that can dig in the ground, right?
Yeah,
Right.
he's
He can burrow it. Yeah, he's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the first monster that gets stomped.
Okay. Well, most
Spoilers,
people
by the
listening
way.
probably kind of know what we're talking about,
Yeah,
unless
so.
they know a lot about Godzilla. But so there's many Godzilla movies. This is like one of 50 or something.
Not quite
right?
50. I think it's Japanese Toho releases. I think it's 30 something if you count the one that just came out, minus one.
33, I think, is the number I keep seeing in the news reports.
Something like that. And then if you count,
That is so many movies. 33.
then if you count the 4 American releases, if you count the 98 Godzilla, so almost 40.
Yep.
Yeah, so many, it's hard to even keep track. Okay, so this is one of those many.
Yes.
But BJ, this is also your favorite
It's one
of
of my,
all of these? Okay.
it's one of my
your
favorites. Many moons ago, I wasn't personally asked, but I was part of a discussion where it was asked, if you could recommend 2 Godzilla movies to someone, which 2 would you recommend? And my answer was the original, which at the time I had not seen in its entirety outside the westernized version. Even though now that I've seen the westernized version, I stand by that. And this was after thinking about it, this was the second movie I'd recommend, because this is basically what people will come for in the Godzilla movies nowadays, by and large. It's just a good giant monster mash, and the human plot line is generally okay. I've definitely seen worse human plot lines in Godzilla movie.
Okay.
Even in more modern iterations, at least in the American version. I think way back when we talked about King Kong versus Godzilla, I already complained about the human plot line I didn't like in the newer Godzilla versus Kong. But that's neither here nor there. But yes, this ranks highly on my enjoyed Godzilla movies.
And it's unusual to have this many monsters in a Godzilla. Or not so much, because a few of them have like a bunch, right?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot to have 2. There's quite a few to have 3. 4 monsters is not totally out there. I can think of at least a couple others to have that many.
Okay.
Hang on, folks. You're gonna get the full Godzilla nerd in this one.
You have to be detailed about this. Yeah. Yes.
So
it's a requirement.
So probably the most unusual thing about this one is King Ghidorah, the golden 3-headed dragon, being a good guy, or quote unquote good guy, I guess, because usually he's generally considered one. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, usually he's an antagonist in most of the depictions. He's almost never depicted, especially if Godzilla's in there. Ghidorah is usually depicted as kind of the antagonist. He's like an outsider or something else. Yeah, you're right. And never depicted as like.
Well,
yeah, Ghidorah is usually at the end boss level. Like I think in Final Wars, he's like the very last monster that gets fought, and like even in the American version of Godzilla King of the Monsters, Ghidorah is the main villain in the second I guess in the current MonsterVerse, if you want to call it that. Ghidorah was the big bad in the second Godzilla movie, not counting the 98 one.
And then they used his skull in the third one when it was King Kong versus Godzilla or something like that. They used his skull as part of the device to make them.
Yeah, something like that. That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a totally unique idea. In the Millennium era Godzilla movies, they use the skeleton of the first Godzilla as the framework of the Mechagodzilla in that series. So
I know. I do know that they sometimes, they often find a deceased monster in order to build a robotic monster out of it. It's kind of interesting.
Well,
because apparently their skeletons are super strong, right?
Well, and plus, if you're going to build a giant whatever, might as well have a giant whatever to build it off of, right?
Yeah. Kind of a template.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
But
okay, so lots of monsters in this one.
Yes.
So
go ahead, Gary.
So I'm gonna say something. BJ, I'm going to reveal a terrible thing for the podcast listeners.
Okay.
A terrible sin that BJ has committed, in that he has not watched a Godzilla movie before I have.
Okay, yeah. So as of this recording, the Western release of the newest Toho version of Godzilla Minus One, has been in theaters for a week or two.
2 weeks now, yep.
Yeah, I was going to go see it this last week, but my little chronic stomach bug was flaring up, so I wasn't feeling great, so I didn't want to go out in the world and risk it. So I'm going to go see it this week sometime. But yes, Gary has beaten me to a Godzilla movie, and he is very proud of this.
And also, I am very excited because it is a very good movie. I highly recommend it.
Yes, I've heard.
But I'm not going to say anything else for fear of I will say
add that as an achievement, Gary.
Yes, I have personally heard nothing but good things about this movie. I have not really dived into very many reviews or anything because I'm trying to go in as blind as possible. But I think it's as far as modern movies goes, on say a review aggregation site like Rotten Tomatoes, it seems like it's usually either critics love a movie and audiences hate it, or critics hate a movie and audiences love it. Last time I went on Rotten Tomatoes, Godzilla Minus One was ranked very highly in both critical and audience reviews. So
Yes, it is. It is one of those. It breaks down all barriers because it's a good movie. I am contractually obligated to say nothing but that it is a good movie, not because, review or whatever. It's just if I say anything else, I'm going to spoil the heck out of that movie, which we don't want to do.
Yes.
Go and see it.
Yes, it is a good enough movie that I was going to go see it anyway, but we are trying to convince Jeff to get over his stay-at-homeness to go see this movie so Gary can talk about it.
Yes.
We'll see if that actually works, because I think I said in the text where we were talking about it, in my opinion, it would take something between an act of Congress and divine intervention to get Jeff to leave his house to go see a movie.
Yeah, so...
Well, Jeff, I'm going to text your wife, which is even more powerful, and tell her it's a good romance movie. No, don't get me in trouble. She'll want to go see it.
She will not go see a Godzilla movie.
Well, I mean, I would assume it's a Godzilla movie more in the vein of like the original Godzilla and Shin Godzilla, where it's more of a... how to phrase this without making it sound like I'm burying it. It's a movie with a message, but it's still a good movie. Yes, Gary.
I have told you I am going to say it is a good movie and that you should go watch it.
Okay.
I cannot say anything else.
Okay, I will stop poking Gary and agitating his urge to talk about Godzilla Minus Zero, because we're going to talk about giant monsters on attack.
Yes.
So, gentlemen, as people who are less connoisseurs of Godzilla than myself, what did y'all think about this movie?
Jeff, you want to go first, or
Gary? You go first, Gary.
Don't everybody start at the same time.
This movie was a really nice movie because I was able to sit down with my son and watch this movie together, nice and quiet. It was a nice way to spend a Friday afternoon. It's just a nice, quiet way to spend a nice Friday afternoon with my son. We watched a good movie together and laughed at he said that Baragon, one of the monsters, is cute. And he's like kind of got a little sad.
It is kind of cute.
It's adorable, right?
Yeah. But he also did not like, because he's grown up on a lot of the Hollywood takes on Godzilla or some of the other Godzilla movies where Godzilla's a good guy. So he's kind of having a hard time wrapping his head around the fact that in this one, Godzilla's a bad guy.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do this movie, because, again, like I think I explained to Jeff back when we watched the original Godzilla, the reason why I wanted us to watch that before we started diving into other Godzilla movies, even though this is the first one we've watched since then, is that a lot of the later Godzilla movies, especially the Millennium series, which this one is a part of, will station themselves as sort of a direct sequel to the original. And this one does the same thing. So Godzilla is not the protector of Earth. He is an angry radioactive dinosaur, which in this case is also driven by the souls of those who died in the Pacific Theater of World War II. So he's like a possessed zombie Godzilla.
And I kind of like that, where it's like he's this evil, malevolent force who's come to, wreak havoc, because that's what his purpose is. I mean, attributing higher intelligence and benevolence to something as large and destructive as Godzilla, I mean, it's kind of cool because it makes him a superhero, but it also kind of detracts from him as a character. So just turning him back into this evil, malevolent, not necessarily evil, but just this massive force of nature that would cause destruction on a citywide level is
I think it... Oh, go ahead.
kind of just adds, well, not adds, but it definitely explores a different area of his character.
I mean, I think in most cases, when Godzilla's not being the hero, they do treat him more along the lines of being like a force of nature. But the go off you were saying before, I think this version of Godzilla could be called, if not evil, then what was the word you use?
Malevolent?
Malevolent, that's the word.
Yeah, that's
because he's not. Because yeah, they use that to explain why he keeps attacking Japan, and Japan in particular is because he's being driven, is possessed by the spirits of everyone who died in World War II, and turns out Imperial Japan killed a heck of a lot of people in World War II.
Oh, but BJ, in this movie, Godzilla didn't just attack Tokyo or Japan. He also, well, there's rumors that he attacked New York.
Yeah, well, so that's...
Isn't that... No, they were referring to the 98 movie, weren't they? The 98 Hollywood movie?
Yeah, that's a reference to the 98 movie. Depending on who you ask, say people, oh, they're taking a dig at the 98 movie because it's not really Godzilla, but I don't know how much that is true or how much is just driven by people's general distaste of the 98 version of Godzilla, which I have not seen in quite some time, but when I was younger, I enjoyed, so...
So you liked it, and most people hate the 98 version, right?
Well, it was okay.
It was okay. I really like the design of the 98 Godzilla. Some of the acting's not great in that movie, but...
Design of Godzilla himself?
Yeah, so Jeff, as a Star Wars purist, you probably understand how annoying purists can get.
A bit. I mean, I know it from my own self-reflection.
It's like, as someone who has had long discussions with you about various and assorted things about what you disliked about the various and assorted Star Wars, imagine that, but with Godzilla.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
purity is just so important.
You
have to maintain that.
So, but anyway, before we start dunking on theoretical people online, Jeff, what did you think about this movie?
Okay, so I'm a little different than you two very esteemed and great curators of fine art.
Just cut to the chase, Jeff. You're going to say there was too much CGI, so you didn't like it.
I thought it was good. The story's okay. Hey, when you get 4 monsters battling, that is superior to 3 monsters battling. The more, the better with Godzilla movies. And I don't like more a lot of times. I think a less is sometimes more. It just depends. But when it's big monsters fighting, having more of them thrown into the story is a good thing. Godzilla movies can be a little bit, I don't want to use the word confusing, but they jump around.
Only to you, Jeff. Only to you.
No, only to me. I've only seen 5% of all
only
these
man in the world
30 plus
I thought the
movies.
plot of King Kong versus Godzilla was just really confusing.
Okay, yeah, it was I don't need to re-explain it, but with Godzilla movies, if you there are things to keep up with. Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so there's whether a monster is a protagonist or an antagonist, whether or not these movies follow the canon of previous films, there's just so many branches that this canon goes in, and this particular movie is only connected to the original black and white one from the 1950s. That's at least what I picked up on.
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, to bring up the fact
you mentioned it earlier. I did manage to pick up on that one point.
Pay attention to what anyone else says in this podcast. Yes, I did mention that.
I just wanted to say that I did know that before you gave me the answer. But, yeah, it's all of that can be a little bit confusing unless you are a Godzilla nerd, and then that is not confusing whatsoever. There isn't a lot of different stories that are like this, where they're so enthused about turning out new product that they just go in all these wild branches everywhere. And I don't know, I guess like even the Marvel movies, they're all connected. The Superman is one example. I guess he's kind of like every once in a while they'll make a few movies and it's kind of a remake. So I get it. I get it why these Godzilla movies, there's so many different ones and different branches to the story, and they're not quite all connected to each other. It's all fine. It's all fine. All you have to do with a Godzilla movie is just sit down and enjoy it. These are popcorn movies. They are all about the fun action, the characters, which are I mean, they'll make you laugh once in a while, and yeah, it's all great. You know, the fact that their plots are as what they are, I think adds to the charm. So altogether, it was a good movie. It was a good one. I do like Godzilla 1984 a little more, and a few of the other ones, but this one was good. It was very good. So it's definitely, if you want to sit down and watch a Godzilla movie, it's a good one to pick. And with that said, we should start talking about spoilers, because I think you guys want to dive in deep, I'm sure.
I think we've already started doing spoilers.
I know. We couldn't help ourselves. We just kind of did it.
But, okay, yeah. So if we're getting into spoilers, we should start talking about the thing that everybody goes to a Godzilla movie for, the human plot, right? Right, BJ? Everybody goes to Godzilla movies for human plot?
I mean, the human plot is part of it, but the human plot just needs to serve as a way to get from scene A to scene B and not really get in the way. And I think this one does okay with that.
Yeah, and kind of provide filler because it costs a lot of money to put a guy in a rubber suit and have him stomp on all those model buildings.
Yeah, you can't just blow up models the whole time because it takes a long time to build models and not very long to blow them up.
Yep.
And you can only blow them up once, then you have to build them again. But no, I think the human plot of this movie is pretty good. I mean, great.
Okay, I'll be honest. What exactly was the human plot? Is fun in that you start off learning about the group of reporters who are filming monster movies and very much faking the entire film. So they're basically doing pseudoscience, where they're faking that there might be a monster in the lake.
It's a docudrama, Jeff.
It's a docudrama, exactly. I thought it was good that we have this group of not normal reporters. These are kind of misfit reporters.
This is
not mainstream.
This is the level of reporting that kind of oh gosh, how do I say this? I don't know. These guys look. There's this guy. I keep seeing a meme of him. He's this guy. He's Ancient Aliens, I think it is, in the History Channel, and he's got this like weird wild hair, and he says, it's aliens. Aliens are think. These people probably look up to his level of reporting as kind of like, wow, we want to aspire to be like him someday.
Yeah, it's about the level of reporting you get on like you said, like Ancient Aliens or most of the stuff, or, well, I can't say with any certainty because I haven't had the History Channel in some time, but a lot of stuff they had on, say, the History Channel or whatever about aliens and whatnot.
Aliens or ghosts or anything else of that nature. It's there because it's exciting and people watch it.
What's the word? Sensationalist?
Yes, sensationalist.
Anyway, Jeff, you were starting to say something?
Yeah. Well, they have to pay the bills somehow, but yes, it is exactly that.
But one of these reporters, the main one, Miss, I think her name is Yuri? Yeah, Yuri.
Yeah.
Her dad is someone a little bit more respectable, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a commander in the Japanese Self-Defense Force, or, well, they say commander, but he seems, I don't know, like, in the scheme of things, if commander's like a real rank or how how high of level rank it is, but he seems pretty high up because he takes...
Actually, I think it is a Navy rank. It's like not quite to... It's not quite a captain, but it's higher than... It's higher than a lot of other ranks. Like, it's higher than lieutenant, but it's not quite a captain yet.
Yeah, but at any rate, he seems fairly
not part
low.
of the normal Japanese military, right? They have like this special group they put together just to fight Godzilla? Or am I thinking of another movie?
You're probably thinking of a different movie because the plot of this movie is that as mentioned before, this is a direct sequel to, or treats itself as a direct sequel to the original Godzilla. So there have been no Godzilla sightings in over 50 years. Most people think that Godzilla is either dead or he is just a myth or whatever at this point. So when Godzilla starts attacking again, a lot of people don't believe it or whatnot. So there's no special task force like designed to fight Godzilla because Godzilla hasn't been seen in 50 years. And one of the things I found interesting, and they don't really dive too deep into it. There's like a couple of scenes about it. Is that apparently the quote official unquote story is that the Japanese military killed Godzilla. It's not, but I guess it's kind of
because they had to cover up what happened in the original Godzilla film.
Yeah, because
they used a secret weapon against Godzilla, a very dangerous secret weapon.
Yeah,
they covered the whole thing up just to protect the science behind it.
Well, going off the ending of the original Godzilla, they used the oxygen destroyer, but prior to using that, Dr. Serizawa, who is the original scientist from Godzilla, he destroys all his notes and then kills himself to keep the oxygen destroyer from being used again.
Well, so by killing himself, he kind of sacrifices himself in order to defeat Godzilla.
Yeah, well, we talked about that in more detail in our Godzilla.
At least that's Godzilla, what I remember. I remember him not so much killing himself, but he sacrificed himself. And so with kind of like a two-part goal, by destroying himself, he keeps his science a secret, and he defeats Godzilla. So it was like a two-for-one sort of thing. Well,
Godzilla was going to be defeated anyway because they deployed the oxygen destroyer, but then he cuts his airline and then doesn't go back up so that it can't be used again. But anyway, that's neither here nor there to the plot of this movie. But anyway, the official story is that the military killed Godzilla, and I guess only a few people know about the oxygen destroyer, or I guess they don't even know the name of it anymore because when they're talking about the guy telling everyone else about it just calls it a unknown chemical compound that they can't produce anymore.
They were worried even if people knew of it, they would simply just try to recreate it. Because if they knew it was possible, they would try to research it.
In theory, yes, but they don't really dive that deep into that in this movie, so we don't need to.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just reading between the lines.
Yes.
And and geeking out about that anyway.
Yes, but those are lines that we read between about this time last year. So
we've got So we've got the military, which are going to provide Jeff's favorite thing in the entire world: tiny models.
Of
military
tiny
vehicles.
Little model tanks and tiny little boats too. I mean, boats are good too. Tiny little model airplanes. I think all three of those are winners. All three.
And this is something that always cracks me up in movies like this. And Gary, as our closest thing to you were a military guy to some extent, so
yes,
but not necessarily like an expert strategist or tactician or anything like that. But
he didn't march with Napoleon. No.
But so in movies like this, or I guess it's just default to deploy a bunch of guys with guns to just stand around and get nuked by Godzilla. Why have guys with guns in this situation, Gary?
So the guys with guns aren't to fight Godzilla. The guys with guns are to get all the people out of Godzilla's way. A lot of those people don't want to leave, but if a person with a gun shows up, you will do what the person with the gun tells you to do. And if that person is telling you to get on a truck and that truck is going to drive away very quickly, then that is what you are going to do. You know, if the person with the gun wasn't there, then you'd be like, I need to go back to my house and pick up a few more things, and maybe I left Fluffy, my kitten, in the house or something. But if a guy with gun shows up and says, you need to get in truck and go away, you're going to get in truck and go away, right? So that's why the guys with the guns are showing up, because you know, you have to. I think at some point in the movie, Yuri's like, no, I need to go in there. I need to go film something. And then, you know, that's kind of like weird and counterintuitive, because most of the time in real life, person with gun shows up and tells you to do something, you're going to do it. And that's why those people are there. Now, the people who had like the heavier weapon systems, that was probably actually meant to deal with Godzilla. Things like tanks, jets, missile launchers, boats, all that fun stuff. All of that stuff was meant to actually deal with Godzilla, right? Because those weapon systems...
It's like that again, but like...
Yeah.
It's like, get the guys like out there, like manning, like running security and whatnot, but then you have a bunch of guys just standing there right next to the rocket launchers that are there to get nuked when Godzilla nukes the missile launchers.
Oh, no, you don't need like 50 people to run a missile launcher system, right? So, yeah, that's probably just window dressing for the movie's sake, right? Bump up the number of kills to make Godzilla seem a little bit more serious. That is not a viable... And also, those missile systems, those are some very heavy missile systems. What those are even doing in the city at all... You see, movie makers like to make this, like, dramatic. So they have these things be just right up close. When these missile systems and the tanks and whatnot, even the tanks could probably be, like, over in... The missile systems could be in the next zip code and still be hitting Godzilla with precision accuracy, with any sort of... Even weapons developed in, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, you'd still be able to hit Godzilla.
But you have to have them all in the same frame, right?
It's the same reason why in any monster movie, you know, you have to have these super modern jet fighters like get close enough to get clawed out of the sky as they make a gun run against this giant monster, right?
When they could be like miles away and still be hitting him with modern weapon systems.
You know, it's not like they're designed to engage targets from beyond the horizon or whatever, right? You have to get close enough to get shot out of the sky by atomic breath.
Now, I will say one thing about that. The one thing that makes sense. So let's say Godzilla has even a modicum of intellect. Even this malevolent force Godzilla. He has a modicum of intellect, right? He's fairly intelligent, right? If he starts getting hit by something he can't see, he's just going to be confused and start lashing out in anger. But what if he can see what he's getting hit by? Then he's going to find the thing. Like, if it's something that is visible to him, he's going to go find that thing and go after him. That's why you have to build something that can take a punch from Godzilla and put that out there and have that shoot at Godzilla. I believe that gets covered in other movies in various and assorted ways. But it doesn't really do that in this one because they don't have, like... They don't have anything that could take a punch from Godzilla. Doesn't he like have accurate anti-air atomic breath in this one?
I mean, he does shoot down a couple of jet fighters. I was trying to tell what they were. I can't really tell what they were. I think they might have been some kind of MiG. I couldn't really tell.
But that's like he's got like a few seconds worth of breath weapon, and very highly accurately shoots down all of the jet fighters that are going after him. It's like,
well, he wastes them within a very short amount of time.
Yeah,
they line up this whole ambush to attack him, and then he just turns around, uses his atomic breath, and within a few shots, they're done.
I mean,
the military has to leave, and they've been wrecked. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if y'all want to see Godzilla go full anti-air, you should. Y'all should probably watch Shin Godzilla. They go wild with Godzilla anti-air in Shin Godzilla. It's pretty impressive, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, I'll have to give that one a watch. Speaking of Godzilla movies that are good, this one's good too, but
yeah.
Anyways.
But yeah, let's kind of go back. I think this Godzilla is fairly intelligent because there's a scene where he's fighting Ghidorah underwater, and they're trying to shoot the drill missiles into his wound, and he sees it coming, and he sees it coming, and he's smart enough to move his body so that it hits Ghidorah in the neck instead of him. So he is fairly intelligent, I would say.
And this is me, again, reading between the lines here, but in the original Godzilla, the scientists all came to the conclusion that Godzilla was not intelligent. But it is possible that experts could actually get things wrong and change their opinion as they have more data over time. And it seems like in the movies, originally he was supposed to be a big, mindless creature who just wanted to rampage and stomp on things. But as time goes on, they're beginning to realize he's a very sophisticated creature.
Well,
and he has motives and planning and has foresight on what he's about to do and other things.
Well, in the case of this movie, this is only the second time Godzilla has appeared, so I don't think they have a psychological profile on Godzilla. But
I know they need somebody trained in Freudian psychology to come and analyze him.
As part of the plot that the BSQ, it's part of the underground reporter team. Part of the story then covers that they find the weird mystic guy who's saying that Godzilla is driven by the souls of those who died in the Pacific Theater.
There's no evidence of that. That's just him talking, right?
This is him talking, but considering the fact he's right about the guardian monsters and whatnot, I think he's a pretty reliable source.
Okay, I don't fully understand that character. We're talking about the old man who's somehow knows a great deal. He was part of the original attack, right?
So they don't really talk a lot about him. They imply at the very end of the movie that he was dead the whole time, that the person they're encountering is like a ghost or something, because they revealed at the very end of the movie that he was 75 years old at the time of the original attack, which was going off the movie, which was 50 years ago. So,
okay, question.
Yes.
Sorry. Is he the old man, the very same person from the original Godzilla? Because there was an old man.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. I do not think his character has any ties to the original film. He's just there to move along the guardian monster plot.
Okay. But it is normal, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it is normal to have an older man who knows ancient mythology behind Godzilla there as kind of a way to help the audience know what's going on and know some background.
In most Godzilla movies, there's not like a ancient mythology behind Godzilla, so to speak. That's one of the things that makes this movie a little more unique, is that it leans more into the fantasy side as compared to the sci-fi side.
Yeah, it seems like the origin of Godzilla changes from storyline to storyline, because there are different branches of this canon. So in this particular, yeah.
So in the vast majority of Godzilla movies, at least on the Toho side of things, so just to break down for those on the know, you have the ones from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. That's all considered one era. So all those movies are are one series and are connected somewhat. You have the ones that were made in the 80s and 90s. That's starting with the one you said, starting with Godzilla 1984. That starts a fresh reboot. It's tied to the original Godzilla, but not any of the other movies that came after that, I should say. And then ones in the 80s and 90s are one complete series. And then you have the Millennium series, which are mostly standalones. There's a couple that are tied into each other, but most of them are just tied to the original Godzilla.
Isn't the ones so the ones that are tied together in the Millennium series? That's where it's like, because I think I remember seeing a few of those ones. That's like Mecha Godzilla, because they have like 2 or 3 Mecha Godzillas, and it's all of those are tied together, right?
Yeah, there's Godzilla against Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS. Those movies are tied together. Tokyo SOS is a sequel to Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And then the American movies, 98 is standalone. The MonsterVerse American movies, the newer ones, those are their own thing. And Shin Godzilla is a standalone. I've not seen -0, but to my understanding, that's a standalone. Or -1.
Yeah, -1.
Yeah, so people just want to kind of reinvent the story, so they keep doing standalone ones because they want to try something new.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, don't say anything, Gary. I'm cutting you off. Yeah, so most movies will, well, not most movies, but a lot of the movies will be based off the will start at the beginning. You know, there'll be a sequel to the original 1954 Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
That's
the one movie that seems to connect everything together.
Oh, yes, that's because that's the best one. Except you've asked Jeff, you like Godzilla versus King Kong more, but never mind, we're not going there. I roasted Jeff enough on that one. But
so usually Godzilla's origin story is that he's created from atomic experimentation and the radiation from that, but also he's kind of an ancient creature, and that he may have always existed even in ancient Japan, and there's myths and legends about him.
By and large, they just say he's some kind of dinosaur. If I remember right, in one of the 1990s ones, they say like what specific kind of dinosaur he is, and there's this weird little subplot about that, but I think in the newer American ones, those are pretty much the only ones where there's I think it's only in like newer American ones where there's like an ancient Godzilla storyline or whatever. That's more of an American thing than a Japanese thing.
So,
yeah, Americans like the more ancient background to them. But there's always people in the Japanese versions that somehow have some tie-in to the past. There's archaeologists who research different things. There's artifacts. There's history, though.
Not really.
Usually. Not really? Not really?
You keep saying this with such confidence.
I don't know. I haven't seen very many. That's probably why. The few I've seen have had something.
Then why are you out here saying this with such confidence? It's like, I know nothing about Godzilla, but in every Godzilla movie, there's some old guy.
Well, there was an old guy in this one and an old guy in the last one.
So in this one, are you
thinking about Big Trouble in Little China, Jeff? That's the one.
There's an old one, and there's an old guy in that one too.
Yeah, I'm like, is Jeff thinking about Big Trouble in Little China, about the old guy that knows about all the ancient mythology stuff? That's Big Trouble in Little China, Jeff, not Godzilla. Anyway, sorry, Gary, go ahead.
So we've got several monsters here. I find it interesting that there actually is some thought process put into this particular situation, right? Before each of the monsters wakes up, there's like this weird little shrine, this little stone statue, right? And it's not till that statue gets disturbed or broken before each of those monsters wakes up. Or am I reading too much into a situation?
No, man.
See?
It seems to fit the case.
An ancient artifact.
Okay, there's... Yes, Jeff, congratulations.
Jeff.
There's ancient artifacts in this movie, ergo it must apply to every Godzilla movie, right?
Sure.
That's...
I mean, okay, they're not in all of them or most of them, but
okay.
In this one,
yes, we just haven't seen all of these ones that you're referring to. But there's ones where they just get together and they fight. Yeah.
So in this one, there's these.
That is true in most Godzilla movies, Jeff. There's monster fighting. Anyway, carry on, Gary.
Yeah. There's little statues, and little statues get disturbed, mostly by people who are up to no good. And then
I was about to say, usually by delinquents of some kind.
They disturb the statues.
In 2 or 3 cases by some kind of delinquents.
Yes.
Yeah, like some teenagers out partying on the beach or something.
Yeah,
and they accidentally break one or something, right?
Well, teenagers on the beach and accidentally break it, they're going to use it to weigh down a crate to drown a dog.
Which was...
So, yeah.
Yep.
They got what was coming to them.
What a plan.
Yeah. That's...
Well, Gary mentioned this one time, like one of the ways you can easily let the audience see a bunch of people get done in is you show how evil or messy or problematic they are or wasteful they are, or you show some reason why they are, they're doing something reckless that leads to their demise.
Yeah,
something like that.
If you do something like that, so there's 2 situations that is. You can show a person is evil or a person is good by how they treat. For instance, it's called the rescue the cat scene. If you want to show that a person is a good guy, you have them rescue a cat. Maybe not literally, but you have them do something that is very obviously a good guy thing, right? Well, in this particular case, these people were evil hoodlums. And how do you show in a very short period of time that these are evil hoodlums? Some random dog is, someone's pet dog is there, and instead of just shooing the dog away, they put the dog in a crate. Now, since I watched this with my son, I had to reassure him that the dog gets away just fine. It doesn't actually show that in the movie, but...
Actually, it does. In the news report about the people being killed at the lake, they show some rescuers who are petting a dog in a box. So it actually does show that the dog gets away.
Oh, thank goodness. I wasn't lying to my son then. Anyways.
The dog is fine. It's just...
It's just the
no needs to worry.
Like,
the dog is okay.
16 people died. Huzzah!
No, but that's another thing is you can make people feel good about a person's death by giving the audience the moral high ground in that these people are obviously evil. If they're shown to be obviously evil, then their inevitable deaths makes you feel justified in your cheering that on. And it also shows the monsters as being a slight force of good because they were the ones who took out these bad guys. Right?
Well, it makes you feel like bad things don't happen randomly. It's like you have to be reckless or doing something ridiculous or even wrong in order to have the monster come after you.
Well, at least until you get to
like consequences.
At least until you get to the scenes of Godzilla, he just kind of kills everybody.
Yeah, until then it's just free for all.
Well,
I know. Here's the thing. Like, there's a statement in this movie, and maybe I'm wrong. I know. Okay. Anyway, but there is a statement where the news reporter lady says, like, "Oh, it's Godzilla is our monster," something like that, which is confusing because towards the end, the other monsters are trying to stop Godzilla.
I have no idea what scene you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe
Gary.
That.
So I think Jeff actually has it right. So
okay.
So at
That's
one point she does
opinion.
kind of like, there's a lot of times where she. So I'll
the
give
scene
Jeff
where
the fact that
creature's digging in the ground.
So I'll give
it's near there. Yeah.
I'll give Jeff the fact that this young lady says everything over the course of this movie, right? She's of all the characters, she's the main character of this movie. Now, much more than her father, who is actually the hero of the movie. She's the main character, right? So she probably does at some point say something along those lines, and I could understand why she would say that, because he's not necessarily their monster, he's their punishment for what, the Japanese people did during World War II. But this is a whole new generation. This is a generation that was in the 2000s, so they have pretty much almost all the people who were alive during World War II were pretty much dead, I think, at that point. So I don't know why Godzilla would still be punishing them at that point.
Well, they touch on it a little bit. There's like one line that the old ghost guy says that Godzilla's going to keep punching them because they have found it preferable to not remember what they did, as compared to, say, and I'm not an expert on this, shall we say, but in the Japanese media that I have consumed, be it movies or video games or whatnot, they generally don't really bring up the actions of Imperial Japan as compared to, say, the modern German people who it's in their culture, their national identity, that they acknowledge what happened and they're not going to let that happen again. So in that sense, I guess is what the old guy is saying, why Godzilla keeps coming back and attacking Japan, because Japan doesn't really acknowledge what they did, or they don't really talk about it, I guess. I could be looking too deep into that.
I guess you've got that. Just kind of keep the memory alive.
I think that was the line, yeah.
But so we've got some monsters. We've got Baragon, who's, not even in the movie poster. Kind of sorry to see that. No, is he? Yeah, he's in the movie poster. Sorry, I've only got like a tiny one I'm looking at right now. He's barely in there. We've got Ghidorah, we've got Mothra, and then we've got Godzilla, right?
Yeah,
and it's kind of 3v1.
Yeah, so kind of speaking on the movie poster line, I guess. So when the movie was first developed, the writer-director, he actually wanted to use a couple of... So in the original draft, it was going to be Baragon and two other monsters, Anguirus and Varen. But when he brought the script to Toho asked him to change two of the monsters to King Ghidorah and Mothra, because they were more popular monsters. They were more known monsters, I should say. They would be a bigger draw.
Yeah, I could see that.
So that's probably why Baragon kind of gets the... And also Baragon, because he's not, as I said before, he's comparatively not well known.
So how many monsters are there?
Many.
There's many? There's
many.
Lots of them. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so these four are all in different films. I know Mothra's in several.
Yeah. So
what is it? King Ghidorah?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? Yeah.
Yeah. King Ghidorah is actually in quite a few.
I thought he was Hydra. Isn't there another one? Is that a different creature?
That's a Greek creature, Jeff.
Oh.
That's a creature out of Greek mythology.
Yes. Though the similarities are there. If you wanted to say that Ghidorah was a Hydra, you would not be wrong.
Well, in this one, they kind of... I'm about to shove my glasses up my face and say, well, actually, in this one, they they kind of link King Ghidorah more into another Japanese myth, because they talk about how they talk about
he's an old emperor, right?
Well,
it's one
no,
of the ancient emperors.
Yeah, no, that's Big Trouble in Little China again, Jeff.
This Godzilla stuff is confusing. Okay, go ahead.
So they talk about how Ghidorah's final form is a 8-headed dragon, but he hasn't been asleep long enough, so he only has 3. That's a tie-in to, is it Orichi? I think it's called. Anyway, but that's a different Japanese myth. So I think there's a tie to that instead of Hydra per se. But I'm gonna take my nerd cap off now and carry on.
Yeah. So we've got Ghidorah, who doesn't quite get his wings until mid-movie, and then he goes Super Saiyan, is for lack of a better term. For those who don't know what Super Saiyan is, if you watch this movie, you'll kind of get the idea. He goes all golden. More golden.
He does get powered up a couple of times.
Yeah, he gets powered up a few times.
He gets powered up by Mothra ghost dust, and then again by the stone they've been carrying around forever. But still, he gets blown up real good.
So, all right, this was probably obvious, but why are these 3 creatures fighting together?
So as mentioned in the movie, Jeff, I know King Kong, good grief, Godzilla plots are, I'm just mystified.
No, okay, there were parts of this movie where...
Jeff, please let me finish, because I was thinking of a way to phrase this without totally burying you, because you like stuff like Star Trek and stuff, which has way more complex plots than this. So I'm just confused. Like, do they not engage your brain enough for you to pay attention? Or I just don't get it. Why these confuse you so much?
I don't know. It must be the subtitles. That's what it is.
There's an English version of it, Jeff.
I watch things while I'm trying to read things.
Jeff, there's an English dubbed version of this. That's the version I watched with my son. So
yeah, I was going to ask you guys at some point if you guys watched the dub or watched the subtitles.
Well, I watched the dub. It's the only good way to watch it.
I watched the dubbed version because I had my son with me. He while he can read, he can't read fast enough to read a movie while it's going on.
Yeah, subtitles are rough on 7-year-olds. How old is your kid? 7?
He is 7, almost 8.
Okay, I'm in the ballpark.
Okay. So, since we all know the answer, let's just talk about it, just for those in the audience who may not know. So why are these 3 monsters fighting together, BJ?
So these were 3 monsters. So this might be where you're getting all your ideas about Godzilla in ancient Japan, because these were the monsters from ancient Japan which were defeated, but their spirits kind of remained as guardians of the, as they phrase it in the movie, quote, homeland. So, quote unquote, homeland. So,
but don't they
these monsters will...
No, they make a distinction in this movie, right? They say that the homeland isn't the country, isn't the borders, it's the...
It's the land,
It's the island chain, right?
Well,
the geographic area.
They don't dig into it, but they do say that there's difference between the homeland and the nation of Japan. So the guardian monsters are just there to protect the land, and everyone else is just kind of there, I guess.
I mean,
so yeah, they're just...
You get the feeling that they're trying to protect the people too, but they're not going to excessively go out of their way to do it, right? At least that's the impression I got.
A lot of people get destroyed in these battles, so they're trying to stop the creature, but they'll probably knock over several buildings in a few neighborhoods in the process.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you expect? They are giant monsters. You really expect them to wrestle without destroying something?
And definitely whenever Mothra's flying around, he's not obeying strict air flight protocols. So I bet that every time he takes off, they have to ground all the planes for safety reasons.
Well, I don't think there was a lot of air traffic going on in Tokyo that night. I don't think you want to run the airport when there's a giant monster running through.
Yeah, and
I could be wrong, but
well, doesn't he shatter, or am I thinking of a different movie? Doesn't he shatter a whole bunch of windows as he's flying past because he's flying so fast? Or am I thinking of a different one?
The only part of broken windows I can remember is a early appearance of Godzilla. He breaks a bunch of windows by roaring.
Yeah.
There's probably a different movie of broken. I can't remember. I don't think it's this movie, but I could be wrong.
And King Ghidorah, in order for him to fly, he must have been very lightweight because his wings were so small.
Well,
I mean,
the implication is that he's more supernatural than scientific based, because there's a giant swirling nimbus of energy around him while he's flying.
And plus, if we're going to start arguing about the laws of physics, that just renders any giant monster movie null and void. So, don't think too deeply about it.
They'd have to be made of something incredibly strong in order to maintain their weight. I mean, you just told me not to think deeply about it, and then I had to think deeply about it.
Which part of don't think deeply about it was hard for you to comprehend?
You tempted me, BJ. That's what you did.
Well,
you opened that door and said, don't go through it, so of course I went.
This is me slamming the door shut. Gary, carry on.
Speaking of thinking deeply about it, isn't there one thing that happens in this that their most effective attack is after they die, and all they really do is make Godzilla heavy, so he sinks in the water or something like that? Or am I thinking something?
No, I don't know why this is the particular scene that stuck with you so much, Gary, because we were talking on text about what movie to watch, and your way of verifying which version of the movie or which movie we're going to watch was you said something along the lines of, is this the one where King Ghidorah magically reduces Godzilla's buoyancy? I'm like, not the first scene that comes to mind, but yes.
Yeah, but that's what they do, is they magically reduce his buoyancy so he sinks and into perfect targeting for the final attack, right? By the humans?
Well, not really, because he sinks and then the little submarine dives after him and gets swallowed.
But then they can attack him from the inside where he's weaker. At least that's the theory.
You don't necessarily need to make Godzilla sink for that, but sure.
Well, the submarine can't fly in his mouth if he's out of the water.
Okay, we can argue this, or we could carry on. Jeff, you're going to say?
Well, I was going to say, now that we're finally bringing up this scene, this was the best part of the whole movie, where he's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take out Godzilla, and he flies right into his mouth. I don't know what it is. I am just a weird human being, but having a small, tiny submarine submersible and navigating into Godzilla's mouth, what a plan. What a plan. It was well done. And that's how they finally are able to do something against him. Because their giant fleet of ships didn't work. All their airplanes and bombs and their missiles and all that. Yeah.
Their giant fleet of 2 ships.
Yes. 2 ships.
Two model ships.
And it's all it takes a while to get a ship from far away. That's probably all they had inside the Tokyo area.
I was gonna say, I'm sure it's not a big military base right inside Tokyo or whatever.
Yeah.
Probably within the 24-hour transit distance, though. There's probably tons of resources within that distance. But still, you're right. here I am, complaining.
They might have been off in a training exercise somewhere.
These guys could probably be somewhere in the South China Sea with modern weapon systems and still be hitting Godzilla, but we already had that particular discussion.
I would say we had a discussion. So another thing is that they do kind of mention in passing that their hands are tied until the cabinet or whatever, until the government decides they can take action. And again, if you want to see this dive into more detail, go watch Shin Godzilla.
Huh.
That's me talking about Shin Godzilla again. Yay.
Anyway. I will have to go see this after you have gone to see Godzilla Minus One. It's a good movie, people. You should go see it.
Yes. I'm going to.
Okay, I'm this whole minus one title is really throwing me off.
So,
how's it -1?
So,
does it take place before the first movie?
So I will tell you what I know about it, so Gary doesn't get tempted to go off in this thing again. But
he's probably very tempted right now.
But from what they said on the trailer I watched, so it basically takes place in post-war Japan, where Japanese have been basically brought down to base level. They're at 0. So Godzilla appearing is -1, more or less.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
So, or something along those lines. I will, when I go see a movie, if you go see the movie, we can talk about this more.
Yes, we can, Jeff.
Anyway.
Leave the house.
Yes.
Got it.
Leave the house.
It's good to leave the house.
Leave the house. Leave the house to do something to go to work, Jeff. It'd be good for you.
Oxygen. And people.
Vitamin D.
Well, the last part, I kind of agree with you there, Jeff. But the first 2 parts are actually good for you, so you should probably go do that.
I mean, depending on the time of year around where we live, maybe the oxygen not so much.
Maybe.
Depending on how the weather has been, but other than that.
So back to this one. So he flies in, or not flies. He pilots his little mini sub into Godzilla, and then shoots a hole in him, and then pilots this mini sub back out.
Theoretically, through the same hole, I guess.
Theoretically, it did look kind of gross. Wesley, my son, actually made mention of that it was kind of gross looking.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was thinking this earlier. This is, as far as Godzilla movies go, this is a pretty intense one for younger kid viewing. They do not shy away from the fact that Godzilla is straight up killing people.
Yeah.
They kind of played for kind of a dark humor a couple of times, but there is death in this movie, and it's not gory or anything outside of some stuff in the monster fights, but yeah, there is death in this film.
My son actually made mention of that. He said, Godzilla's biting Ghidorah, and it looks like ketchup, or something along those lines.
Oh.
Yeah, kind of silly.
It does look like ketchup. It's not quite dark red.
Well, who knows what the blood chemistry, who knows what the blood chemistry of a giant 3-headed ancient monster is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what goes into fueling that. And we're probably not supposed to think too much about it.
This is the same movie that the final shot is a heart beating by itself. There's not anything attached to it for it to be pumping blood too, but there it is beating. With
the implication that it's going to grow back into a new Godzilla. Right?
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
so that's interesting, because if you cut certain worms in half, they'll become 2 worms. Yeah. So Godzilla, we think of him as kind of like a dinosaur, kind of a reptile, but really, he doesn't seem to fit into any of these categories. He has abilities that are all over the place, including regrowing himself if he even just has a small piece.
Well, in some Godzilla media, I don't know if any of the books go into this, but or not any of the books, if any of the movies, like go into this, but like some books I read and maybe some comic books, like instead of Godzilla being like it's not like Godzilla is invulnerable, it's just that he regenerates very, very quickly. So so it's basically as if he's not hurt. It's not like the shells and stuff do damage, but it just heals so fast that it looks like there's no damage. So going off that, yeah, but like I said, I don't know how canon that is, or if that's just stuff they made up in it's an
interesting idea.
Yeah.
But BJ, speaking of other Godzilla movies, didn't this one come out right after Godzilla 2000, right?
This one came in 2001, and Godzilla 2000 came in 2000 or 1999.
So
there.
Godzilla 2000, they actually covered that particular concept of.
Oh, do they? Okay.
They call it, and they even like delve into it in detail. It's a very significant plot point.
Okay.
Where they're.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They say, "Oh, we found it. It's called Regenerator G1."
Okay, yeah, I remember
that's
that.
Right. I do remember that.
It's been some time since I've watched Godzilla 2000, so like I said, I couldn't remember if that was a thing from a movie or just from a book I read. So okay.
Yeah, no, they isolate his regenerative capability and they investigate it during that particular movie. So it's kind of interesting. And the
Gary
fact
is out to take my spot as Godzilla expert.
I have not seen near as many as you have, BJ. I've seen a few.
He's starting to remember more stuff than I am, and he has seen the new movie before I did. He's catching up.
Evolving. No,
he's evolving into a Godzilla expert.
And then there's poor Jeff over here. I'm still waiting for him to make like another Big Trouble in Little China reference.
Which movie are we on?
So.
The one with lightning, where people shoot lightning from their fingers.
Well, Ghidorah does shoot golden lightning from his mouths, so there's that. I guess
it was awfully nice of Mothra to give his gold twinkle powers to King Ghidorah. I think that was really a good move. It helped their team out a lot. He's obviously a team player.
Well, in giant monster fights, Mothra has a long and storied history of not living to the end of the movie, shall we say.
Mothra does? So does he always get pummeled?
Usually it's a her, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, her.
And in fact, a lot of the times, some of the times, not a lot, but some of the times, and it acknowledges this because you'll see you'll see Mothra in the larval stage towards the beginning of the movie, and you won't just see one, you'll see 2 or 3 of them in a few of the depictions you've seen, like Mothra's plural. They don't all make it to the end of the movie, or even to the point where they're flying around, right? They've gone full, but some of them, they do show it. Where there's multiple Mothras in the larval stage.
I could be wrong. The only one I remember them having more than one Mothra in the larval stage is Mothra vs. Godzilla. There was a 90s spin-off Mothra series, which I actually bought real cheap. I actually haven't watched yet, so I don't know if those dive into that, if that's what you're thinking of, but then again, as proven as the fact I forgot about Regenerator G1, Gary could be remembering stuff I don't.
Maybe I just saw that one, and I'm thinking way more into it than I should. But yeah, but the fact that we see Mothra a lot of times show up as a larval Mothra before we see him, or her, before we see him or her,
whatever.
Or it, or whatever, show up as the moth stage. So it could just be that, where it's like, something that shows up. And don't we also see twins, don't we? We saw them in this movie too, right?
Yeah. It was just like a short little scene, but that's a nod to the past Mothra movies, because Mothra usually communicates to and through a couple of in the older movies, they're like, they call them fairies, but they're like tiny ladies.
Okay.
I was gonna say
confused. Confused again. I'm confused.
I was gonna say I can hear Jeff's brain frying from here. It's like, what? At some point, I need to make you guys watch the first Mothra movie. It is real weird.
Okay. But I was expecting to say it's really good. It's really good. No,
it's good.
It's real weird.
It's real weird. Cold War politics in the giant moth movie. Hooey.
Wow.
Hooey.
So we got Mothra, we got Ghidorah, we got Baragon, and then we got Godzilla, and he's kind of a they just kind of go at it and they destroy all the little buildings, and then Godzilla's gone and everybody's happy, right? Well, not happy because they have to rebuild the city again. Trying to think where else this.
Okay, who's your favorite monster in this movie?
What's yours, Jeff?
Godzilla.
Yeah.
Godzilla. Hail to the king of the monsters. It's got to be Godzilla.
Yeah, I tend to agree. This is probably one of my favorite Godzilla designs. I like the design of King, the King Ghidorah, King Ghidorah design's pretty good too. They do a good job of making him look like a good guy when up until now they make him like the final enemy or whatever. So
yeah, he had a very fantasy dragon kind of look to it, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think it's spikes. Spikes. You can always tell the good guys from the bad guys by how many spikes they have.
Yeah, in the classical, in the usual Ghidorah design, shall we say, it's more spikes on his head. This one, there's more like antlers, or it's more like a Japanese dragon approach, kind of, I guess. Kind of.
I do have to question, so in previous iterations, we've seen Godzilla go back and forth between. So Godzilla 2000 was kind of strange, where it had this weird spiky, the Godzilla design itself. It had this weird spiky his back spike, his back things were all weird and spiky. Versus this one, it's more of a classic rounded.
The Millennium Series Godzilla design, his back plates are much more spiky.
Yeah, like almost like shards of rock, almost. Versus a lot of other ones went with more of a rounded bone plates kind of design. So I've got a. What's a BJ's thought on that particular design choice?
I think it's all right. I mean, it was the late 90s and the early 2000s, so things have to be spiky, I guess.
I feel like his back somehow helps him with his atomic breath, because the atomic breath energy starts to build up through his back, and then it shoots out through his mouth. It's almost like those giant curved plates on his back. They help him with his atomic breath somehow.
Well, I don't think they ever dive into it, but I think it's just a good cue that's about to happen. It's a good
it's a visual cue.
Visual cue, that's the word. Yeah.
Ouch. Sorry guys, I'm biting my tongue so hard.
Okay, yeah. Well,
he's struggling to not totally spoil the movie. This is very painful for Gary. He's sacrificing a great deal in order to keep things on the wraps.
Don't worry, Gary. I'm going to go see you in a few days.
Yes, and then you will know, BJ. You will know my pain.
Okay.
Oh.
Anyway, so I guess we're going to move on to stop causing Gary pain.
Oh, which is your favorite monster? You guys didn't answer that question.
Yes, I did. I said Godzilla.
I think I didn't answer. I kind of like... I don't like Ghidorah because he gets so many... Like, he still can't land a punch unless he gets 2 power-ups, and then he kind of flubs the punch anyways. I mean, Mothra ends up doing way more in the grand scheme of things than either one of them. Baragon's cute though. I don't know how you make a giant monster cute. It was weird.
We need like stuffed plushies of the Baragon, right?
Yeah.
Every kid can have one.
It's weird, but he's cute. He gives off that cute fuzzy, even though there's nothing fuzzy or cute about him, I still have this idea of he's cute. Maybe it's the ears. I don't know.
Well, they kind of mention him passing that he's cute, like when he's crawling around about to attack Godzilla, they're at like the hot springs place.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a bunch of tourists there and they're taking photos of him, and one of the tourists is like, "Oh, it's terrifying, but kind of cute."
Yeah.
It's an adorable creature that's now come to rampage.
Well,
then
in the grand scheme of things,
from Godzilla coming the other way.
Baragon doesn't actually do that much destruction, right?
Yeah, because Baragon attacks Godzilla like it's like the touristy place, but it's not like a big city. So yeah, a bunch of people get hurt, but it's not really Baragon's fault because Godzilla's there too, and Godzilla does most of the property damage while being up Baragon. So I guess in that case, it's kind of Baragon's fault because he was there to get punched.
Well, Baragon actually chose his fight location the best of all of them because the other two, they're fighting, in the middle of the city proper versus Baragon. He's like, I'm going to lure him out to the middle of nowhere, or at least try to, right? So, I'm sure if they had a little spiritual conference afterwards, they're like, Baragon's like, dude, just lure him out to the middle of, not the middle of the city, And
they probably have a little spiritual after game discussion where they get together. It's like,
well, it was either that or Mothra and Ghidorah or the other two say something lines of, "Dude, why'd you jump the gun? If there was 3 of us, we might have had him. But no, you had to go off by yourself and get your face kicked in."
Yeah, that is true.
Because again, like we said before, the guardian monsters aren't there to protect the people. They are there to protect the homeland.
Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, I would have to say I like Mothra of all the 3 of them because I think he, she, it, whatever, that thing is the one who actually contributes the most out of all 3 of them.
Mothra did the most work.
Yeah, a lot of the heavy lifting was Mothra. Ghidorah keeps getting his butt kicked and can't actually land a punch unless he gets powered up 2 or 3 times.
I mean, if you're going off that metric, I think Mothra got her butt kicked a lot more.
That's true. I mean, Godzilla definitely did the most butt kicking in the movie. But if I'm trying to avoid just saying that Godzilla was the best monster, I would have to say Mothra. But
okay, fair enough. Okay, so
well. It was, we talked about Godzilla for an hour and a half so far.
Yeah.
And it was easy.
Well,
it caused a few contentious arguments. Only a few.
One minor thing, we probably should have led with this one. Should I make an announcement, BJ, or no?
Oh, yeah. We forgot to follow up on past assignments that had been handed out.
I had a moment of panic there. I'm like, wait, what? Announcement? What?
Yeah, we all were hoping the teacher forgot the assignment.
But yes, scary, you. So I can't even be surprised about this because in part of our conversation setting this up, you said, "Oh hey, I took the Harry Potter test." So Gary,
yes,
what house are you?
I actually took the Harry Potter test and I went through it. So you guys gave me some vague directions on how to do this, and I went and looked, and apparently there's a million of these out there. So I went to looking for the most official looking one.
I believe my vague direction was go ask her wife because she'll know.
Yes. And she gave me a vague direction of, just go like to the Harry Potter website. And there's like 50,000 of these things. But I went to one and I found one that actually looks official-ish. Maybe. I don't know. I went and looked up because apparently there's this one called Pottermore. I couldn't find that website. It just took me to this other website that says Wizarding World. But anyways. So,
yeah, because
stopping, I'm going to stop avoiding the thing. Yes. So I am apparently a Slytherin. Dead silence.
I never would have guessed that.
What? You never would have guessed that? I
thought you'd be Ravenclaw.
Well, my question was going to be, so does your wife know about this?
Yes.
That might need to stay a family secret. Right?
She was
okay, but
she on the one side she's happy that I finally took the test. On the other side she's like, "Oh, you're Slytherin." Huh. And then we had to have a discussion with my son because he's like, "What's Slytherin?" And we're like, well, it's one of the houses." But
honey,
you're in the best house, Gary. The
Daddy's
best one above
guy.
all.
No, okay.
Yeah,
EJ,
but it's the most powerful.
I know. I was joking. I know being in the House Slytherin doesn't automatically make you a bad guy. I know this.
Oh, do you know how true that is? Apparently, according to Harry Potter lore, Merlin was a Slytherin.
I mean,
oh, hey,
Merlin wasn't necessarily a nice guy.
Yeah.
What? But he
was
helped
a
King
good
Arthur.
guy. He wasn't a nice guy. Just like in the books, Snape was not a nice person either. But he was a good guy. Spoilers, by the way.
There you go, spoiling heck out of Harry Potter. Well, I think at this point...
he did some good
We're
things,
not a Harry
right?
Potter podcast. We're not talking about Harry Potter. So if we want to spoil it, some people can be...
Especially because I think I might know less about Harry Potter than I knew about Godzilla.
Well, just do what you did with this conversation and make
things up. There's an old man in every Harry Potter movie, right?
Make generalizations and throw in random stuff in Big Trouble in Little China, and you'll get there.
You got to learn how to talk like an expert, BJ.
To speak with confidence.
There's a whole science.
To speak with confidence. It doesn't matter how wrong you are. Just speak with confidence.
But it's weird. So Jeff's a Ravenclaw. BJ, you're a Hufflepuff?
Hufflepuff.
And I'm a Slytherin.
We're not even in the same house, all three of us.
Think my wife's Gryffindor.
I think her wife said she was Ravenclaw.
Well, I could go ask her, but I'll ask her after podcast.
Yeah, I don't think there's a Gryffindor among us.
Yeah.
That would mean there's like no heroic noble person among us, right? Is that what that means?
There's no good guys that are going to rub your nose in it amongst us either. So good guys who know they're good guys and they're going to remind you of that at every turn. So, okay, maybe that makes sense.
I'm the protagonist.
Maybe it's starting to make sense that I'm
Slytherin person does not like Gryffindor. They have many negative things to say about them.
Well,
those darn Gryffindors.
It's not as my wife put it, as my wife asked me, she's like, aren't Slytherins just like, she knows that they're not all bad guys, but she does know that they're all dicks. And I'm like, well, yeah, but dicks get things done. And then she's like, it's true. People who are, rude and offensive and what would be the word? Short with other people aren't necessarily bad guys. they can if they apply their powers.
They make sure the line moves efficiently.
Yeah, they make sure
that people don't stop to talk, and then
you might not like.
Yeah, it's somehow me. The biggest jerk in this podcast is a Hufflepuff.
Yes.
I don't know. The Harry Potter hole was not one I dived very deeply into. I read the books so I could see what everyone was wild about. I'm like, oh, that was all right.
Well, I can tell you.
Well, they're not bad.
There's a certain amount there, but not. I'd honestly say there's more Godzilla lore than there is Harry Potter lore. Given that there's it's 33 movies over how many decades, there's way more Godzilla lore than there is Harry Potter lore.
We're just wanting to anger a mob so they can come after us, right?
In air quotes, maybe.
You have to be careful about what you say about the Harry Potter people. They will come after you.
Let the Harry Potter people come. We'll get views. It'll be awesome.
Well, Jeff, given what I just said, we'll have all the Godzilla people on our side, so...
So there'll be a giant epic battle between the Harry Potter fans and the Godzilla fans.
In all honesty,
the Godzilla fans will be supporting us.
Overlap.
The Harry Potter fans will be trying to shut us down. It'll be a huge tumultuous battle.
I don't know if the Godzilla nerds would be on our side because we didn't straight up trash talk 98.
Well,
yeah, we can't please anybody. Always an enemy somehow.
We stand alone our little podcast island.
No, but like I said, there's a lot of overlap on those particular two Venn diagrams, so you might get some people fighting themselves in their own confusion. Yeah.
The podcast use confused. It's super effective. There's everyone someone will get.
That's a Pokemon thing, right?
Yeah, I have to admit it. Is that I don't get it.
It's from the Pokemon video game.
I see that as a meme though. Occasionally.
Yeah. Oh.
In its confusion,
it started
from
the Pokemon video game. Yeah.
In its confusion, the thing hurt itself or whatever, and that was very effective.
Yes. I'll just go with that. Try to spare what's left of poor Jeff's brain.
Yeah, I definitely need more storylines for more things.
Well,
might as well throw in Pokemon.
I guess I'm going to start to make the sounds of wanting to wrap this up, given the timeline of where we're at, what things need to happen over the next little bit. So, should I ask the question?
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts?
Oh, I beat you to it, huh?
I like this movie. It's a good, fun movie, popcorn movie. Watch it, have fun. You're right. Maybe take some time to explain previous. If you have kids, hey, this just a movie. Don't. Those are tiny models, not real people.
Yeah, there's nothing like super objectionable in it. Except if you watch the subtitles, they do drop one F-bomb.
Oh.
So watch out for that.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh. I must not have read the subtitles. I guess that's evidence. That
I heard the dubbed version, so I didn't catch that. So I'll But speaking of purists, anyways.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Generally recommended.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Generally recommended.
Generally recommended. If you're Jeff, it's not Big Trouble in Little China, so.
Which is also a recommended movie.
I don't know if that was actually where your confusion came from, but it just fit very well with a couple of things you said. So, I don't know. Anyway. So,
obviously, BJ likes this movie too.
Yes. It is not one of the 2 or 3 Godzilla movies I won't recommend, so there you go. But yeah. So yeah, we covered a lot of ground. We talked about a Godzilla movie. We discovered that
Gary is in the House of Slytherin.
That out of the 3 of us, if any of us go power hungry, it's going to be Gary. Good to know. But yeah, so last call for random comments. Otherwise, I'm going to close this out.
Oh, come to our podcast for the garbage. What did he say? Garbage pail. No, bottom of the barrel newscasting.
Oh yeah.
Was it the bargain bin of the airwaves?
Oh yeah, that's right. Bargain bin of the airwaves. So yeah, come to our podcast because we're the real bargain bin of the airwaves.
Well said.
Okay. So on that fiery note, I guess I'm BJ. With me was Jeff and Gary, and we'll see you next time, I guess.
Bye.
Bye.